I'm Mark Callie in Mr. Saltwater Tank, and this is Mr. Saltwater Tank TV. My second favorite part of building a saltwater tank is the build itself. That's designing the system, choosing the components, putting everything in place, and plumbing everything up. Now, that part of my build is complete, and if you missed those shows, follow the link at the bottom of the screen to get caught up. Make sure you catch the forklift part as well as the part where I give you the rundown of my filtration room. While the second favorite part of a saltwater tank build is the build itself, my favorite part is choosing, quarantining, and placing the livestock in the tank. And that's what I'm going to show you today in this Mr. Saltwater Tank TV episode. Now to Nathan Springle and all those who've given me a hard time and razzing me about when are we going to see the livestock show, I appreciate you giving me a hard time. I actually enjoy it. No reason to wait any longer. Here's the show. Planning the livestock for a saltwater tank is all about strategy. And a well thought out strategy includes your skill set. Just because you've been keeping fish for a long time or all your fish are healthy, that doesn't mean you've got the skills to keep a difficult fish. When in doubt, err on the side of caution. Buy a load created by the fish. Different fish produce different amounts of waste. For example, chromis don't produce much waste. Tangs and predator fish do produce a lot of waste. Adding a lot of high bioload fish without the filtration to back them up, well, it's a recipe for disaster. Fish interactions including stocking order. Each fish decision affects another decision as some fish plainly just don't get along. Color. Saltwater fish are way prettier than freshwater fish, and as saltwater tank owners, we've got a huge color palette at our disposal. You can mix and match as you choose. Incorporating, or not, fish on the fringe. Reef-safe fish with caution? That's so misleading. Fish such as types of triggerfish, harlequin tusk, these fish probably won't eat your corals, but may eat snails, shrimps, and crabs. Like these fish and want to take on the risk? Well, know that your inverts may get eaten and some corals might get nipped at, therefore, risk as much as you dare. Dream or trophy fish. There are dream cars, dream homes, and then there are dream fish. These are those fish that you'll have to save up for because they're expensive, or wait for them to be collected because they aren't always available. Perhaps it's a fish that you've always wanted, and now you've got the tank to support it. Tank personality. Tank dabbler, reef enthusiast, reef junkie. Knowing your tank personality is not only important to how you set up your tank, but also to your fish selection. If you don't know your tank personality, grab my tank personality report at mrsaltwatertank.com/tankpersonality. Hey you tank dabblers out there. Difficult to keep fish around and you'll want to avoid overstocking your tank. Reef enthusiast, it's about balance for you. Pick your one trophy fish or difficult to keep fish and make that your baby. Overstocking also isn't for you as balancing your life with your tank is vitally important. Reef junkies, here's the hardest part for you all. Knowing when to quit. When you've completed your fish strategy, stop. Don't add any more fish. Call it quits and stop the fish stocking. I know it's difficult, and remember, less is more. You don't have to have a tank that's stuffed with fish to get that wow factor you're looking for. Alright, we've got the basics for the strategy of saltwater fish selection. Let's look at how I applied it to my tank. My high bioload fish are mostly comprised of tangs, including my blonde naso tang that's up to 6 inches now. I've had this fish for years and the streamers are starting to appear. Black tang, this is one of my dream fish. I've been putting these in clients' tanks for a while now and they love them. I was able to pick up this fish for a discount due to the scarring on its head. Just because a fish isn't perfect doesn't mean it still can't be beautiful. Whitetail bristle-tooth tang, another dream fish for me. I wanted one for a long time and I was finally able to get one last year. I like getting small fish and growing them out, and while this one is bigger than I'd like, well, I had to jump on the opportunity to get it. Caribbean or Atlantic blue tang. I wanted a blue fish and I didn't want a hippo tang. Now this tang is currently yellow because it's in its juvenile stage, and once it matures, it'll turn solid blue. Fish on the fringe. Gold flake angelfish. This fish may nip at corals, and I kept mine in a coral quarantine tank for a full 6 months, showing her all the corals that were there. She didn't nip at anything, so into the big tank she went. Of course, I understand it's an animal and its behavior could change at any moment. I'll take that risk though, as this fish is stunning. Of course, I got some triggerfish, and I saved up my pennies for a smaller male-female pair of crosshatch triggers. These fish get large, so I waited until a small pair became available. This pair doesn't touch any invertebrates in my tank, even though they eat any food that I throw in there. You've probably noticed these black and white striped fish, as they just have to be the center of attention. These are Australian stripies, and Andy turned me onto these fish. They are voracious eaters that also school, but they're not going to touch any corals or inverts, but they are hard to find. Getting one of these is moderately difficult, and getting 6 was a downright chore. While they may not look that flashy, they have tons of personality and they're very hardy. Continuing on the schooling theme is my spot breast angelfish trio. I had a large female and added 2 more smaller females in hopes that my big female would switch to a male. No signs of a sex change yet, and I'm hoping that she comes to the male side soon. Also, I've got 6 lyre-tail anthias females, and I'm hoping that one of them will also switch to a male soon. My original pair of black or ice clownfish from Pro Aquatics are still with me after 3 years. What's a reef tank without some clownfish? The barring pattern on these guys and gals is intense, and I really like that they're all captive bred. I can't stand reef tanks that don't have fish that perch or spend time amongst the rocks, so I added a Springer-eyed dottyback who spends most of its time darting among the rockwork. I've also added an orange spot blenny who I've named Mr. Grumps. He'll nip at a fish that get too close to him, and his downturned mouth makes him look even more grumpy. Of course, I've added some coral including SPS, Gonopora, which are doing great after being in the tank for 6 months, as well as some timeless classics like frog spawn, octospawn, torch coral, and a blasto colony I've been growing for a number of years. Zoas? Of course I have those, and I've started a small garden in one of the nooks of my tank. I separate out the pallies as they get too big and often shade out the smaller zoanthids. I've recently fallen in love with the Pissamacora, and I've got an orange and yellow piece in my tank currently. My rose bubbletip anemone split recently, leaving 1 clone free to go in my big tank. It's hanging out under the metal halide lights and is doing just fine. The next step for livestock for the tank will be to get more coral and add some harem of wrasses to the tank. A reef tank just isn't a reef tank without some wrasse. For now, the quarantine tanks are empty and I'm waiting on the next fish shipment. I'm Mark Kelly and Mr. Saltwater Tank. This has been Mr. Saltwater Tank TV. Till next time, have a good one, enjoy your tanks, and know your tank personality.